Outstanding Jurist Award presentation and special Magna Carta presentation. My name's Christopher Bruce. I've had a pleasure of working with members of our local inn, a lot of attorneys in the area, and members of the bench to put on our event tonight, which should be a special, definitely a special occasion. Just before we get going and present our Outstanding Jurist Award, I wanted to give everyone a little bit of an idea of what we're doing and what the inn is about. Just to sidetrack for a moment, if you haven't heard of the Inn of Court, we're a group of lawyers and judges. We meet about 7 times a year right across the street at the courthouse. If you haven't heard of us, you should have. The inn is basically designed to mentor and bring up professionalism among the people in our community. So we'd love to have all of you involved. Just before we get started and have a award-winning skit here, I want to thank the people who made tonight possible. We have a few of the law firms in the community that have sponsored our event. Listed in alphabetical order: Ackerman, Link, and Sartori, the firm of Anderson, Mayfield, Hagen, and Thron, the law office of Georgia Newman, our inn president this year, the firm of Gilbert and Yarnell, Matrix Mediation, my partners at Nugent, Zabrowski, and Bruce, and the firm of Williams, Lenninger, and Cosby. We have Jim Williams in the back here. Thank you very much. Also, tonight we've had the pleasure of working with Mike Downey's firm of Visual Evidence, and we appreciate everything they've done for our group throughout the year. So without any further ado, I want to introduce our inn president, Georgia Newman, and she's going to take us through the rest of what we have in store. I hope you enjoy.
So, I know that a lot of you are here for the Outstanding Jurist Award, but I'm going to make you wait for just a moment because there are some of our inn people here who are dying to know who won our INNS Cup for the year. And our INNS Cup is who of all of our pupillage groups did the best in terms of scoring the most points in order to achieve the honor of the commemorative INNS Cup. And there is nobody who can announce the INNS better than Tim O'Neill, who has been our program co-chair. There were 3 people, Dan Madden and Donna Eng and Tim, who really came up with phenomenal programming for this year. And so I'd like him to present the INNS Cup. I don't even know who. Dixie.
Good evening. First, I just want to say I was very proud of all the pupillage groups this year. You all did an excellent job of programming. It was, exceeded my expectations and everybody else in the programming committee. So thank you very much for all the hard work that you did, because the skits that you did came out great. So without further ado, I will go through the top 3 pupillage groups for the year. Number 3, at a total of 4439 points, is Magna Carta. So you can say yay. At number 2, with 4,592 points, is Gray's Inn. And with a whopping 5,857 points, second victory in a row, back-to-back victories, Inner Temple.
Some of you didn't get a chance to watch our programs this year, but I will tell you they were outstanding. And not only do the points count for the outstanding programs, but also for the mentoring that the groups do, all of the groups. And it's a big commitment of ours to have mentoring as such an important role in addition to the achievement of excellence in the practice of law and ethics and professionalism among the attorneys. So it is with great honor that I present to you Robert Glass, who is going to introduce our outstanding jurist, who is absolutely the epitome of all of those attributes and epitomizes the Inns of Court. So Robert.
All right, can everyone hear me? Okay. Now, the Outstanding Jurist Award is presented each year to a judge in the area who exemplifies the goals of our inn, which are professionalism, ethics, and civility. And it's my sincere pleasure to introduce the winner of the 2015 Outstanding Jurist Award, 4th District Court of Appeal Judge Spencer Levine. I had to prepare some remarks. I was told at 9 o'clock last night, so I need two more minutes. I thought about making this a roast tonight, but instead I'm going to start out a little more scholarly, with a brief quote by Chief Justice Earl Warren that in a civilized life, law floats in a sea of ethics. And I bring this up for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think Judge Levine can write an opinion without including some historic quote in it, this love of history he has. And actually, I confess I cribbed this one from last year's INN handbook, which was in his introductory letter at the front. The only other quote I could find about legal ethics was by Potter Stewart, Justice Potter Stewart. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. Now, and I think both of these are applicable to Judge Levine because he is one among our profession who recognizes that ethics and professionalism are not aspirational goals. They're duties. And that's why we're here tonight and he is getting this award. Now, for those of you who don't know Judge Levine, he graduated from NYU, in college from NYU at the age of 19, and attended the University of Miami for law school, finishing at 22. So he's had a long career at this point. He's been in private practice, not that long. In private practice, he has been an assistant state attorney here in Palm Beach County. He's been general counsel to the Palm Beach County Sheriff. He was an assistant attorney general in charge of fighting Medicaid fraud. And he was chief compliance and chief operating officer of Broward Health before becoming a judge. Now, I didn't know him back in these jobs before he was a judge, so I can't, really speak about him prior to meeting him. But I've known him since he first became a judge, and from my very first day working for him, he placed a lot. I can't overstate this. An extreme amount of emphasis on being both ethical and professional in our responsibilities as lawyers. And in fact, it was he who encouraged me to join the Inns of Court in the first place. And I believe it's this commitment to legal ethics that pushed Judge Levine to become involved with our inn and eventually the president of the inn. And it's probably also why he got himself appointed to the Florida Judicial Ethics Advisory Committee this year. And I could go on a little bit longer, but I know you all gave up your Cinco de Mayo to be here. And so it's my sincere pleasure to introduce Judge Spencer Levine.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Now I know how it feels to, like, this is your life. And Craig, why don't I hear trumpets for me? Well, I just want to thank all of my fellow members I asked for that.
Craig Lawson, criminal defense attorney.
All my fellow members of the Craig Barnard American Inns of Court for this wonderful recognition. I'm very humbled to get this award, and especially honored to be in the company of judges like Jack Cook, Jack Cox, Minu Sasser, and Judge Fred Hazori. I also want to thank the leadership of the Inns of Court, the President Georgia Newman, President-elect Judge Lisa Small, and I also want to thank all my colleagues for being here today. We have practically the whole 4th District Court of Appeal, and it's very, very humbling and very kind of you to spend some time here. I also want to thank my JA, Simmons, and my staff attorneys, Michael Del Santro, Sarah Gershbein. And once again, thank you for letting me be part of such a great organization. Thank you.
So, in the judicial dining room at the circuit courthouse, sorry, not the appellate courthouse, hangs this outstanding Jurist of the Year plaque from our inn, and Judge Levine, your name has been added to it along with Judge Cook, Judge Hazori, and Judge Cox. And so we congratulate you. You really are so deserving. So tonight, all right. Well, Chris was in charge. Chris Bruce, who was up here earlier, was in charge of putting together the team for our Magna Carta competition. So our Inns of Court, our national inn, is having a competition which they request any of the inns who want to participate to prepare a program that is commemorative of the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta. And what is the Magna Carta? I mean, it's this document, this old thing. Who cares about it, right? Well, you all will find out why exactly it is so important and why it is conferred on us as citizens of the United States so many rights. And I will tell you that in addition to the wonderful cast of characters who I think is featured in your programs, Jennifer Kramer and Betty Resch spent a tremendous amount of time coming up with this script, and I apologize for the acoustics in here. We're doing our best with the various microphones that are situated throughout, so listen hard because they're speaking in Old English, broken English, whatever, but listen, and I hope you enjoy.
That's right. Yeah. Can't leave. You gotta go to that side, right?
No, I'm on this side.
We gotta go to this side.
No, I'm over here. Yes, I'll go over
Yeah.
here. Yeah, okay.
Screw this up.
I'll try not to.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Betty Resch, and my part in this play is that of a very tired lawyer at the end of a long day of litigation, who's about to embark on a bit of an adventure.
I'm Jennifer J. Kramer. I play the papal courier. Courier was what FedEx and Gmail are now. The historic roots of couriers now mark the way for many marathons that are run around the world. We don't give enough credence to the amount of time that it took to deliver a message in the 1200s, but that's what I did for a living.
I am Craig Lawson, criminal defense attorney. I play the part of a bailiff. I'm in charge of courtroom security and order. And in 12:15, I am the herald. I announce all of the important people. If I don't announce them,
My name is Tim O'Neill. Thank you. Thank you. I am Pope Innocent III. Pope Innocent was one of the most powerful and influential popes of the time. He exerted a wide influence over kings and many kingdoms, claiming supremacy over all of Europe. King John was forced to acknowledge the Pope as his feudal lord and accept Stephen Langton, Archbishop of Canterbury. Innocent III played a role in politics in France, Sweden, Bulgaria, Spain, and England. In return for King John's submission to his authority, Pope Innocent III declared the Magna Carta annulled, though many English barons did not agree.
I'm John Phillips, and I play the part of King John in today's proceedings. Without the horn, you're not anybody. I'm the King of England, the Lord of Ireland, the Duke of Normandy and Aquitaine, and I'm also the Count of Anjou. I'm the child of King Henry, and my brother, who was the king before me, was King Richard the Lionhearted. King Richard the Lionhearted conquered a lot of France and kept that land for England. Those were expensive wars. He was an excellent soldier, an excellent general, an excellent king in a lot of ways. But he taxed the people he ruled over, and that's how he financed the wars that gained so much land for him and England in France. But Richard the Lionhearted died, and I became the king after him. I was a rotten soldier, a bad leader, a greedy, licentious, crummy king. And the barons, those people who ran England and had pledged their fealty or their loyalty to me, were angry about the way that I taxed them, the way that I took their property without paying for it, the way that I treated their serfs, and the way that I treated their wives. I bedded many of their wives. That's just one of the things King John did. So the barons revolted. There was a baronial revolt in the 1200s, and we made war. They made war against King John and threatened to take his head and to remove him, of course, from the monarchy. To avoid that fate, King John was forced to agree to the terms in the thing called the Great Charter that the barons proposed. It had a number of their grievances set out in it, and a number of the powers that the king had wielded throughout history were given up by King John when he agreed to the Magna Carta, or the Great Charter. King John was a rat, as I told you earlier. He reneged on the Great Charter about 6 weeks after sealing and approving it by having his ally, the Pope, issue a papal bull nullifying the Magna Carta. But the Magna Carta established the principle that a king was not above the law, that there were many, many rights that we have adopted into our U.S. Constitution that survived all those years after the 800-year ago signing of the Magna Carta at Runnymede.
I'm Jack Cox. I am this evening, as you probably already know, His Eminence, the Archbishop of Canterbury. His real name is Stephen Langton. Stephen is a son of a lord in England. He is sent to France to be educated, and very well educated. I was educated in the universities of Paris. After the graduation from the university, I went into the priesthood. I was ordained by the church in Rome, where I stayed in Paris for 25 years. There was a problem going on in England 25 years after I got there, where the King of England was in a snit with the Pope. The Pope had told him that he was going to replace the Archbishop who had recently died with me. The king said no, and he banished me from England. He not only banished me, but he banished all of the monks. He seized all of the assets and revenues of Canterbury, and he put us out of the country. He, however, had another problem. He had a problem with the barons of England. And the barons of England were of such a problem that he aligned himself with the Pope. The Pope then forced him to take me on as the Archbishop of Canterbury. Once I was allowed back into the country, I almost immediately became the mediator between the barons and the Pope. This last part is very important, so I thought I would read it to you. He is a small person in stature, but is arguably the most intelligent, most powerful, best-looking man in all of England and France in 1215.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lisa Small, and I play the role of Princess Joan, also known as the Lady of Wales. Joan is the daughter of King John, the illegitimate yet legitimate daughter of King John. I'm also the wife of Llewellyn the Great, a diplomat, and a wee bit of a trollop.
I'm Jeff Brown. I'll be Baron William Marshall. History has called me the greatest and the most impressive knight. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Archbishop Langdon, at my later eulogy said that I was the best knight that has ever lived. I served for 4 kings, and I was a loyal supporter of King John and one of the chief negotiators of the now-to-be-granted Magna Carta. I am swift of sword and tongue.
I am Brad Geis. I play Robert Fitzwalter. I am a big problem for the king. I'm very unhappy with the way he's running things. I'm a feudal baron of Little Dunmow, Essex, and constable of Barnard's Castle in London, which was annexed to the hereditary office of Castellan and Chief Banneret of the City of London. I was a leader of the baronial opposition against King John and one of the 25 sureties of the Magna Carta.
I'm important. Hi, I'm David Neil Stern. I am going to be Eustace de Vecchi, who's one of the barons that will be in the proceedings tonight. This baron was known as one of the hardliners. He was from northern England. He had a lot of land holdings in northern England. He was very close with Scotland in terms of married into the royal family. He was an ambassador to Scotland. And also he kind of hid out in Scotland whenever he got in fights with King John, which happened somewhat frequently. One of his fights had to do with a little bit of a gamesmanship. The king decided that Eustace's wife was kind of hot and decided to kind of bust a move and try to seduce this queen. So he did this whole elaborate scheme where he convinced the baron to give he said, "Oh, that's a beautiful ring, let me look at it." He took the ring and then he sent the ring to the wife to try to induce her to say, thinking it was the baron, to come all the way to the castle. Fortuitously, the baron happened to intercept the wife on the way to the castle. They figured out what was going on, so they kind of dolled up a local peasant and sent her over to the king, and the king was real proud about who had slept with Eustace's wife. But again, Eustace got the last laugh because it was not his wife. Local peasant girl again, big fight, hide to England, another time. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, he did die 1 year after the Magna Carta with an arrow through the head. True story.
All right, let's go.
Council, I'm locking up. You got to get out of here. I don't care if you go home, but you got to leave.
Well, listen, it's been a really long day. And do you think that I could just stay here a few minutes and just practice my closing?
Well, just tell the sheriff when you leave to lock the door. Don't let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, first, I want to thank you for your time that you've given during the trial. I can see how closely you paid attention, how you listened to the witnesses, how you watched what the police did. Okay, the very fact that you, a jury of my client's peers, sits here in judgment in itself is a reflection of a system that, although is not perfect, attempts to come to the truth. Here's a basic fact of our system. As the judge will instruct you, the burden is on the state to prove beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt that my client is guilty. Now, as you listen to the testimony, you heard the police testify how they conducted their investigation and the shortcuts that they took. You saw the photo lineup that the police prepared. It was like a game of one thing is not like the other. One of these things is not like the other. Well, my client was the thing that was not like the other. It was so obvious when you look at that photo lineup, and you can take it back into the jury room with you, that the police got an idea that my client was guilty, and everything they did made it so. So that photo lineup, which was based on one person's identification in the evening, at night, who just briefly saw him for a second, that one person's description that the police accepted became the photo lineup that today can ruin my client's life. He had an alibi. He was nowhere near the scene of the crime. So that photo lineup, because of how awful it was, my client has been denied due process. Due process. Now that's a phrase that we hear, and we assume due process. Everybody says due process. But where did that idea come from? The idea that an accused person had any rights at all, well, that started 800 years ago. In 1215, a long time ago, I know, the King John put his seal on the Magna Carta. And the concepts of the Magna Carta that were signed 800 years ago are as relevant in this courtroom today as they were back then in the field at Runnymede. And there's an interesting historical note with this. He sealed it, and then just a couple weeks later, he and the Pope got together and reneged on it, which goes to show you that you still can't trust the government. You couldn't do it 800 years ago, and you can't do it today. And another little interesting piece of information about King John. Less than a year later, in 1215 he signed it, and less than a year later, he died. He died from a batch of bad peach wine. Though there were those that said it was poison. Oh, God, it's been a long day. Okay, so finish this.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. That King John needs to be stopped.
That's why we're here. You have portrayed him as an evil monster, but King John was handed and left behind a very depleted treasury when his brother King Richard died. Now, I'm not defending all of his acts, but he has done a lot of good for the country, and he has done great things with restraining the church's power. He has reigned for 16 years, and what have we to show for it?
King John has withheld land and titles from those who have lawfully inherited them. Then he demanded payment for their conveyance. He has continued to levy taxes against us to pay for a series of failed military campaigns against France. Honestly, who loses a war against France? All the while, sleeping with our wives, leaving us nothing but cuckolds.
Well, he didn't sleep with my wife, but, he did try to seduce her. Given his penchant for adultery and women, I wonder whether his nickname, Soft Sword, might be a wee bit off.
You're missing the point, Eustace. King John does what he wants, when he wants, without concern for the consequences. He has arbitrarily raised our taxes without our consent. I pay now 6 times what I used to pay to the royal treasury.
It has been agreed. John can remain on the throne, but he must sign a document upholding for the rights and privileges of all free men.
All free men? Even serfs, churls, Jewish people, and women?
Oh, good God, no.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean actual men. Important men. Just like ourselves.
But what if we fail? John has taken prisoners, tortured, and then killed them, starved them to death. He will have our head on spikes. I feel we'd all be better off if we just ended here. Ended things here today. And took his head.
Fitzwalter has a point. I heard that he castrated, blinded, and even killed his nephew, King Arthur, who's trying to take the throne. What will he do to us today if we are unsuccessful?
Regicide? Where will that leave us? What will the Pope say there?
Pope Innocent isn't here. Let him say what he wishes. That's not our concern.
The king listens to the Pope in one ear and the demon in the other. I feel they're both saying the same thing.
We must keep Archbishop Langdon on our side, as Canterbury is much closer than Rome.
He should be here by now. I wonder if we should go check on him and see if he's been injured as he's traveling en route to our meeting here tonight.
Aye, sounds good.
Let's go.
King of John, he's a tedious tyrant, he killed his nephew, he took out the eyes, he took off the pride. He's not a very good man. No, he's not. He's lost the support of his people. They are likely to place his head on a spike at any moment. Unfortunately for me, any replacement could prove even more difficult to handle than old King John. I appointed Stephen Langton, Archbishop of Canterbury. King of John, he refused to accept his position, so I excommunicated them all in England and placed them under papal interdict, denying subjects' right to all of the sacraments. But, in return, the King of John, he seized all the church's lands in England. No small measure, since our lands make up about a quarter of the country. At one point, the church's income was about 4 times that of the king. As you can tell, our relationship is, complicated. You could call we have a love-hate relationship. Maybe just a hate-hate relationship, I'm not sure. We hate each other, but we love the power and we love the money, so we have that in common. What is it that they say? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, if these are barons, if they have it their way, King of John and the church both stand to lose substantial amounts of money. More importantly, their demands they could spread elsewhere. I would like to stop this insurrection before it is ever sealed. However, should King John not take care of matters for himself before the leaves fall, I will simply declare the document called the Magna Carta to be null and void. I will declare that it was signed under duress. Make sure that the King of John gets to this and tell him that the Pope Innocent wants an appropriate and timely response.
Yes, Your Holiness.
Thank you very much.
All rise in reverence to King John of England, Lord of Ireland, Duke of Normandy and Aquitaine, Count of Anjou, Duke of Ellington, and the Duke of
Who?
All rise in reverence to King John, King of England, Lord of Ireland, Duke of Normandy, and Aquitaine, Count Anjou, Count Basie, Duke of Earl, and Duke Ellington.
I really heard you the first time. I heard you the first time. But what's going on? What's with the candles? I don't know what's going on. The courtroom doesn't really look the same.
What say you, strange person?
Okay. Is this some sort of like historical reenactment? A skit? A play? Something? Oh wait. Are you holding an INNS court? Is this an INNS court presentation? If that's true, I'll just get out of your way.
Your Majesty, I believe that she is some sort of scribe. She has bunches and different types of parchments. She's even got rolling papers.
Rolling papers, you say?
I'm impressed, but your group really gets into character. This is a good group. What INNS are you? I'm not here for a meeting.
Silence, you dare speak directly to your king? Are you able to read and write?
Yeah?
Then you are a scribe, like it or not, scribe.
Okay.
Joan, wife of Llewellyn the Great, illegitimate daughter of the king.
What did you say, Harold?
Bastard. Joan, wife of Llewellyn the Great, beloved daughter of the king. Bastard.
Well, that is true. So what news do you bring, dear daughter, of Llewellyn and the Welsh?
Well, dear father, my marriage may have been arranged for wealth and land, but I do have my husband's trust and ear.
Well, my daughter's bridegroom is Llewellyn, the so-called the Great. He is a prince of North Wales. My daughter has become a peacekeeper of sorts, and she keeps the Welsh from trying to kill me, and tries to keep me from killing all the Welsh. So, what are the Welsh up to now, daughter?
Well, Llewellyn has allied himself with the barons, who seek to have you sign a document that they are calling the Great Charter, the Magna Carta.
Well, it's not a great charter. What's in it for Llewellyn?
Llewellyn, he hopes to be rewarded with those provisions in the charter pertaining to Wales. I have been told the charter includes a clause compelling the release of his son, Gruffy Double D. This Gruffy DD was my husband's first son, from his long-deceased wife. And you have held him hostage since 1211.
Well deserved.
Okay, so this is a play about the Magna Carta, and you're playing King John's illegitimate but beloved daughter, Joan? Are you going to be, you are an advocate for the rights of women, right?
I am Joan, and I am playing no one. And you are, sir?
He's a scribe, and appears to be a trifle touched in the head.
I really like how you all just seem to, acting, some method acting, it's wonderful. You're not breaking character for a second. I'm into it. Okay, I'm into it. I'll play along. Yeah, okay, great. I will, yeah.
Well, while this scribe is obviously a bit touched in the head, the scribe does raise a valid point. The Charter does provide for long-sought rights. There is a belief that women deserve their dowers and inheritances, as well as to be protected from forced marriage. Father, their support could prove to be helpful to you in the future.
Excuse me. So you are advocating rights for all women?
Oh, of course not, just the baronesses.
Well, enough. I appreciate your counsel, dear daughter, but I expect the Archbishop and several barons to be visiting here shortly this evening, so I must bid you anon.
Thank you, my liege.
Scribe, have you seen this charter the barons propose? I bid you take a look and help me read it.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may approach.
Thank you. Very kind. You know, I saw a copy of the Magna Carta once when I was at the British Museum. It was right, they had it right next to it where they had, the Beatles had some handwritten lyrics to their songs.
A museum? The Beatles? It does not surprise me one bit that the scum barons would propose a document like this as an ode to an insect.
No, that's not what I meant. It was Beatles, it was the music, that's not what I meant.
Well, come here, read this to me. I can't read a word of what it says. The type is so small. In fact, I don't think it was typed at all. It looks as though it was written with a quill.
Who can read this? Who can read this? It's tiny. It's in Latin.
If only glasses had been invented.
Or even a magnifying glass would have been helpful.
A magnifying glass?
Well, they're helpful. But it would help if one of us knew Latin better. All right, let's see what I can remember.
Here, make some notes with this feather quill.
Thank you. I'll do my best.
You must agree, Your Grace. King John must be stopped.
I agree. Lest you forget, he remains the King of England.
Prince Louis has an army that could be persuaded to join us. Most of us are part French anyway.
To ask the French for help is trading one evil for another.
The people deserve a king that treats his people better than his swine.
But you cannot engage the king without considering the terms this means for England, the crown, and the church.
Terms? You speak of terms. The king will want to see our arms chopped off and our heads on spikes. Where are the terms in that?
Please excuse his bluntness. He forgets to whom he speaks. You need to ask yourself, Fitzwater, who are you fighting for? All of us or yourself?
Your Honor, something about that.
Announcing the Most Reverend Stephen Langton, the Archbishop of Canterbury and Strawberry. The most honorable Baron William Marshall, the 4th Earl of Pembroke. The
would bid you welcome, sirs, but you are not welcome at all. Archbishop, I assume you are here to give us some more examples where kings and rulers have checked their own powers at the door. I've read your Magna Carta and its demands, and you seek great privileges from the crown and the church. But you want to take from the crown. You quickly have forgotten that it's the crown that protects you.
Your Majesty, we are here tonight only to seek what is fair.
What say you to your king? Who are you to say what is fair? You betray me? Barons and merchants, knights of this court, you cannot tell the king how to rule. I rule by divine right. Traitors and Judases, all of you.
Our demands are the bare minimum of what freemen deserve. Even a king should not be able to sell or deny justice to his people, or should any such freeman be the subject to arrest or imprisonment without a proper trial.
I fear we might not be making it out here alive, my friend.
How quickly you forget. I rule by divine right. A king is a birthright which has been given to me by God himself. I wear this crown because of my brother, my parents, and their parents before them. My mother was Eleanor of Aquitaine, the most wealthy and powerful woman in the world. You have no right to tell the king how to rule or to limit the rights of the king. I am God's own hand on earth.
Your Grace, there are those who would seek to send you to God's hand. If this charter is not agreed upon,
enough. I will agree only upon the 63 concessions contained in this charter, no more.
We have your word, then?
Oh, you can trust my word. I will have the Pope issue a papal bull before the fall.
You know, you heard what he just said. He's serious. No matter what he agreed to here tonight, he does not plan on following it. You watch out. He's going to go back on you. This is not right.
dear scribe, while this is none of your concern, I am well aware of the king and the pope's duplicitous nature. You may be the pope's, and I may be the pope's emissary here in England, but I understand that the pope sides with the king in all matters that will line his pockets. The Pope, innocent, may have appointed me his emissary to the court and as the archbishop, but I know well that I may be excommunicated by the Pope and executed by the king for my role in this Magna Carta.
Well, I'll tell you, I wouldn't worry about the king so much. Something just tells me that he will not be around much longer.
Why? Have you heard something? Is it the French? Are they planning something?
They are probably planning something, the French, but I think King John is his own worst enemy, and someone needs to tell him to stay away from peach wine.
You are the strangest person. I think it would be best for you to stick to being the scribe.
Okay. And what do you need from the scribe? When does the king sign it?
Sign it? The king does not sign it. After copies are made, at least 40 of them, the king will affix his seal to the bottom of each copy.
40 copies, really? Well, I'll see what I can do, but maybe someone can get me a better quill or copier.
Scribe, I bid you good night. You are a bit confused.
I am a bit confused.
I suggest you sleep before you continue writing.
Hey, girl, counsel, did you sleep in? You better get your happy ass and get out of here.
I guess I did, but it was different. It was not
the king or the judge is going to be here in 5 minutes. You need to have your stuff together.
I'll do my best.
You bet.
The end.
Like they do.
No, you need to leave the trumpet alone.
Yeah. Like Springsteen trumpet.
Exactly. Oh, good. Thank you. And the big